let's take a look at it here. So I use Desmos function graph performance graphing system. And as you can see here, I have the function here typed out, POT, and it's all in here based on this graphing function. You can see up top here. Coming close, I click on this, right? So click on these numbers here, here, here. You can see I'm gonna grab these numbers. So roughly around age 20 here, you can see that that's 19.78. That's the age, which is this axis below here. This axis here is age, which is in years. And this value, this axis here, is cognitive performance, which is roughly 1.0, means they were able to remember everything that they have seen or done, which is almost impossible. But, that's up for debate as well. So by 19, roughly that age, they have the capacity or the ability to most likely by 90% remember everything that has occurred to them at that point in time. So for example, if I would say, hey, I remember something, because things are more vivid. You're in college, you have a likelihood to remember a lot of stuff that is thrown at you compared to when you were here. Like if you were, 2-year-old, a lot of stuff sticks. You gotta be mindful that there's a whole world that they're learning about. So there's a lot of shift going on in here that you can't say, hey, I'm gonna remember one thing. But because of all the things happening around them that's happening, repetitive and attention is definitely happening at a high degree at this point. So because their synaptic connections are changing so much at this age group. Whereas your synaptic connections are not changing much here. They have got to such a high degree of they pretty much settled at this point. But you have a performance so great that you are literally learning also at the same time. So you have the ability to learn a lot more here, but you also have such an awareness, such a great awareness at this point because you're smart at this point. So you can see this curve here, this nice little smooth curve of growth happening between the age of 0 and about 20-ish. And of course, over time, there's a slow decline of your cognitive performance. And keep in mind, this here is at age 100, seemingly your 0.63 of ability to remember. So basically, there's a probability of about 63% of you remembering some memory at this point in time. So it is weird though, because this person here might remember everything at this point, because this is typically where you remember the most information. So you remember a lot, like you can remember this time period. That's why a lot of people live in this time period, even at age 70 or 90, because they remember this so vividly, because this has such a high level of probability of remembering at this point. But when you're here, sometimes things that happened yesterday or things that happened last week, it's a lot less likely to be remembered because your cognitive performance at that point is not as high. But you can see here, even a kid, you don't remember much when you were 2 years old, and of course you remember more when you're 5, but not much. It's like still pretty low, 26% probability of remembering something. Given this is not attention, but things that are repetitive over and over and over again, or retaught to you over a certain age, of course you remember it. And as you get older, like age 10, 0.68% likelihood of remembering. And of course you get older into your teens, and you get in this age here is a high. So you can see even in here the inflection points, like this age is like roughly around 8 years old. You can see here this is where things really change here, because you begin to realize you can do things on your own. So you can see you can kind of resemble the development process here. You see the development process, a kid here learning something here, around 9-month period here, which is when they learn something, they begin to start realizing things. And then after about a year, so you can see the curve inflection point around here, and then stagnant growth around 4 and 5, right? By the time they hit the age 8, roughly, they have got to this, again, inflection point where things seem to have made them begin to start realizing their abilities, and then get into the teenage years where they are still growing, Not as much, but they are still in their adolescence, still wondering about things in life. And they are saying, okay, I kind of see things now, what I can do, I'm able to do, and they have this little bit of growth rate here, so they can still see they can realize their trajectory about how much more they can do. Here you begin to feel at your prime. You feel like I can learn anything. Anything can be done. I am at this great, and this is why a lot of kids feel this way. Not kids, but a lot of people at this age feel this way. They feel that they can do anything because their cognitive capacity has grown to such a high degree. But then as your age goes, you begin to come down some, and I'm roughly in this area. And I realize that, time is important, so I need to keep my eyes on that. But you can see here, and it's not a bad thing because, it's not much. Like, people don't need everything, but I mean, at the same time, it's good to that's why a lot of people are executing around this age frame here. This age frame is a huge execution period between the ages of 20 and 40 or maybe even 50. There's a huge execution time period here where you try to build up as you can. Because, this inflection point right here is where things a little harder to do, around like 50% or somewhere in this area here. So my thing is, this function helps see a good visual trajectory of any cognitive system could go. And you might say, well, why would I want my cognitive system to go through this level of trajectory? It's the ability to have a learning ability and have its life cycle based upon this. Take a look at this here. You can see the growth in the system and the depreciation of the system. And you wonder why don't we just keep it, going across the entire time? Why does it have to decline some over a period of time? It could be biological, it could be evolution. I'm not exactly sure why this may decline over time, or it could be just that, it puts emphasis on the system to try to perform as much as it can. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.